live to attendees at the
Hold on.
bottom.
Yep, I'm going to do that.
Awesome.
I'll get
Okay,
it.
cool.
All right. We should be live. Can you see my
Yes,
screen here?
yes, and we are live. So we have
Perfect.
some attendees that are showing up, and we still have time as more folks are joining us before the 2 o'clock start time. So that's great. Thank you for those who logged in early.
And you can see the Q&A, right,
Yes,
Nikki?
correct.
All right, perfect. I can't, so just let me know when there are questions that come in, if you would.
Will do. Baylor, how are you?
Hey, how are you guys? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great, great. Hey, Jake.
Hey, Baylor. I think we're going to give it a couple of minutes here. Got about 4 minutes till we get to the top of the hour. Let everybody jump on.
Yep, sounds good. I'll be here if you need me.
For everyone that just joined, we're going to wait a couple more minutes till we get to the top of the hour, and then we'll get going. Thanks for jumping on.
go before we get started? And just as a reminder to everyone, any questions that you have, please feel free to enter it into the chat and we'll address them, as well as have some time for Q&A at the end. But any questions that you have throughout the presentation, please feel free to enter them into the chat and we'll be able to ask them to Jacob. Thank you again for everyone for joining, and thank you for your patience. We're just at about 2 o'clock and we're going to get started. Thank you so much for your time. Jake, I'll turn it over to you for your presentation.
Thanks, Nikki. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Thanks for taking some time to jump on this webinar here today. I believe this is being recorded, so we will have a recording of this webinar available if anyone needs it, for anyone who is not able to make the live session here. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about customer relationships and what that means to your business. So just as far as introductions go, my name is Jake. I am an account manager here at Greenstone. I've been here for about going on 6 years, I believe. So time goes fast. But for those of you that know me, I may be your account manager. If I am not, you may be more familiar with either Nikki, Mike, or Chrissy. So we're all part of the same team here. Hopefully everyone can see my screen here. Nikki, can you just give me a confirmation that you can see my screen?
Yes, so we can see your screen very clearly.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you very much. So like Nikki had mentioned, if you have any questions while we're going through this webinar, feel free to type them into the Q&A and we'll keep an eye on that. Don't hesitate to type your questions in there. We can take breaks along the way to answer questions as we go. But without further ado, we'll get started here. So when we talk about maintaining customer relationships, really this is a wide topic. There's a lot of directions that a conversation like this can go. But what we've done here is kind of synopsize some of the things that we hear from our customers when we talk to them about how they are serving, their customers, their patrons, their members, depending on the type of business that you're operating. And there are some recurring themes that we see throughout our entire customer base when we're going out and visiting people on site, having conversations with them on the phone. Things along the lines of, better customer service, right? That's always top of mind for any business, really, and making sure that you have answers for your customers when needed so they can keep moving on. As long as their business is moving, your business is moving. Improved customer retention. There's been quite a few studies that have gone on about the costs of bringing on a new customer versus the cost of keeping an existing customer. You're probably all well aware of that, but the general consensus is that it's much more costly to try to bring on a new customer as opposed to maintaining your existing customers. And in that same breath, when you talk about better customer service, excuse me, and improved customer retention, one of the things that we hear a lot is we want to move from being a reactive business to a proactive business. So not just having answers to our customers' questions when they ask, but maybe even being able to solve some of those issues or answer some of those questions before they're truly needed. With all of those comes increased customer satisfaction, right? So how do you improve your customer retention? Well, There's a lot of different ways, but increased customer satisfaction is always a topic that boils to the top, but is a really hard metric to quantify. So how do you measure, your customer satisfaction? Is it in the number of touches that customer has with you? Is it increased sales, increased dollars, increased bushels that they're bringing to you, right? Depending on your style of business. So a lot of these are really hard to put into manageable and constructive metrics to where you can grade teams and grade your organization as a whole. One of the focuses that our team has had here is helping businesses understand the relationship that they have with their customers and fostering and building that relationship to become more of a proactive organization as opposed to a reactive organization. But we all know that no business is successful without their customers or patrons or members, and customer-facing employees hold the key to the business image in the market. And really what we mean there is that your sales reps, your merchandisers, your originators, your account managers, however you call them, the ones that are interacting with your customer on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis are really the front line in making sure that as a C-level executive, the image and the brand and the vision that I have for my company is being portrayed correctly in the market. And again, one of the harder data points to track. So in order for us to become more proactive, in order for us to maintain better retention of customers, in order for us to realize those increased sales or increased bushels, we need to make it easier for our customers to interact with us. That's really the starting point to maintaining those relationships with your customers. If it's easy to interact with you, customers are more likely to do additional business with you. They're more likely to forgive, minor mistakes or minor setbacks, and they're more likely to open up to you about what their future plans are, right? What their 5-year plan is, what their 3-year plan is, what their 10-year plan is. But making it easier for customers to interact with you, and like we mentioned before, getting the information that your customers need to the right people is critical. So how do we get information to the right people at the right time in the right place? Well, you leverage tools, right? Some of those are in our ecosystem. Some of them are outside our ecosystem. But everyone on this webinar has access to the universe of Greenstone. And one of Greenstone's missions is to provide customer relationship management tools to our customers. You all should be relatively familiar with the terms Agris and One Way, but within each of those bubbles, we have modules or individual systems that make up your entire ERP. There are a handful of these systems that are customer facing. So there's an additional level of importance that goes into these tools. And some of these modules that are listed on your screen here are internal facing. Some of them are both. So tools that are there to help your employees and tools that are there to help your customers. One of those main modules is something that we call Insight. Now, I titled this slide this way because this is really what culminates from all of the conversations that we have with our customers. We need to get the right information to the right people at the right time. So what we've done is we've taken all of the information that lives within your ERP, whether it be Agris and Cinch, and built an integration to the Microsoft Dynamics CRM tool. And that does a couple of things for you. Number one, it gives you access to information that lives within your ERP that you can manipulate and display in a more graphical representation, meaning you can create dashboards and widgets that are more easily understandable to both your internal team and your customers. So as you have those customer-facing employees meeting on site with your customers, right? Having the information that lives within your ERP, like historical purchase sales history, right? Historical contracting history, and being able to present that data to the grower, to the farmer, to the merchant is extremely valuable. We all know that Agris and Cinch are really good in the reporting realm, but when we're trying to have conversations with customers that may not be as familiar with your ERP, getting the information into an easily understandable format is key. The other benefit that comes from the integration that we've built is the true CRM functionality. So being able to track your interactions with each of your customer accounts, being able to see when the last time an account was touched, being able to see, what your sales reps and what your merchandisers and what your originators are doing on a daily and weekly basis, and being able to report on that. And also being able to track against goals that you may have set for the company overall, specific divisions, or specific employees. And really what that does is it gives from a management perspective, it gives you the ability to make adjustments and catch issues before they happen. Again, referring back to becoming more of a proactive as opposed to reactive company.
We have a couple of questions that have come in, Jake.
Sure.
One of the questions is, can you customize the dashboard for different people?
Good question. Yes, you can. So the way that the dashboards work is that your employees have access to their own dashboard views, because you may have people in the grain department that want to see different information as opposed to the C-suite, right? As opposed to a general manager, a location manager, or CFO, CEO, right? So you can customize and segment those dashboards by user or by role within the company.
Great. Another question that has come in is, how often does Insight get updated?
I'm imagining that question is probably coming from the fact that I said the word integration, which implies that there's a data push. Insight utilizes web services to be able to pull information from the ERP. That web service is set up originally on a timed interval of your choosing. So depending on how up-to-date information you need in the field, you may set that to only run twice a day. You may set it to run once every hour. You may set it to run once every 10 minutes. But that flexibility is up to you.
Great. Great questions, guys. Keep them coming. Thank you, Jake.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Feel free to keep the questions coming. We'll definitely stop and get those answered here. So I talked a little bit about the representation of data. What kinds of data are we talking about here? If you're reading the slide and getting ahead of me, that's okay. Tickets, contracts, invoices, settlements, and more that come from the ERP. So let's take an example here, right? If I'm an originator or sales rep for a company, and I'm going to go visit Joe Farmer, and I'm going to be sitting across the table from him, and we want to look back at his historical contracting history to try to make a determination on how many bushels he wants to contract this year, as opposed to 2 years ago, the last time that he planted corn. Insight will pull that information from the ERP and can be represented in one of these dashboards so that you can show things like trends and year-over-year analysis for this information. So we're not just talking, being able to pull up a specific contract or pull up a specific ticket. We're looking at a module, at a system that can accumulate that data and serve it up to you so that you can make decisions and help your customers make decisions. If I move on to the next screen, this shows a little bit different example of what your dashboard may look like. This may be a little bit more internal because we're looking at accounts by aging period in the top left-hand corner, right? So if you're a receivables clerk that needs to keep track of the invoices that are, aged beyond 60 days or aged beyond 90 days, and keep tabs on what that percentage looks like versus your total revenue so that you can report to the CFO, you can create a dashboard that will give you that information on a timely manner. We're also looking at things like number of contracts written by location and quantity of contracts and commodity by location. So again, it allows you to keep I always tell people, it allows you to keep a pulse on the business without having to really get down into the weeds and run specific reports out of your ag research system. Here's a good example of what I mentioned earlier, being able to track trends. We're looking at a customer, Colorado corn. So this is looking at sales history year over year. And this is segmenting the information by what's called GL account description, which would be inventory category. As far as the customer relationship management aspect goes, I had mentioned earlier being able to track activities, being good for the management team so that you can keep your arms around what your team is doing on a daily and weekly basis. It's also really good for the individuals who are actually using the activity tracking. There are quite a few things that you can do here. Obviously, the baseline functionality is being able to record your interactions that you've had, right? So that's included as part of the functionality. But really, where you start to get into a relationship management aspect is when you can start to add to-dos and add tasks that are future dated. So having a system that helps you remember the activities, the phone calls, the emails, the visits that you have to make, it makes the sales rep, originator, merchandiser's life much easier, as opposed to trying to keep track of all that in a notebook or in your head. One of the things that I hear a lot is, well, I live out of my calendar. We have built integrations to Microsoft Outlook. So if you are one of those people that live out of your calendar to manage, your time and manage your interactions with your customers when you're supposed to be where, that's doable within Insight.
We have a couple of more questions that have been presented. And the first one is, Will the CRM system allow one team member to set up a task for another team member?
Good question. So I'm imagining that is like, say somebody is maybe on vacation or tied up, and you happen to answer the phone. They're in the office, and you have to set a reminder for someone else to get back in touch. The answer is yes. You know, you can do that. That, I guess, is one of the examples of where that would be used that I can think of. So yes, if somebody is on vacation and you're covering for them, and you have a conversation with one of their customers or one of their accounts, you can create to-dos, or you can create tasks and assign them to different people. There's a view within Insight that you can look at all of your to-dos. So the next time that they log into the system, they would see that that task was assigned to them. Also, when you get a task assigned to you, you do get an email notification just to make sure that you're aware that that is out there.
Great. Next question was, can you assign customers to a salesperson?
Can you assign customers to a salesperson?
Yes.
If by that we mean, can we assign like specific accounts, like AAA Farms here that we're looking at, to a specific person within the organization, like their sales rep? Yes. I can see that normally when we, sorry, let me back up here. Normally when we assign, owners is what we would call them, right? Account owners. That's the main point of contact for that customer. It's also used a lot of the times when you have multiple people that have segmented your entire customer base. So maybe you have a sales rep that's not in charge of every single customer that you have. So they only want to deal with a specific set of customers. So like if they're trying to get into Insight and look up a specific customer, they don't want to have to go through the entire list, right? So that's another way that you could segment that data.
Great. Thank you, Jake.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Keep them coming. I mentioned before that we can get the ERP information out into the dashboards, right, and graphical reports. That doesn't mean that you can't get into the data, into the detail. So one of the things that you can do within Insight, while you're on the road, while you're out of the office, maybe while you don't have access to your ERP, or Agris or Cinch, is you can actually drill into specific transactions. So let's say, for example, right, you're meeting with a farmer and they have a question on a specific invoice. They say, well, I don't remember this invoice. I have the invoice number written down here on the napkin, but I don't remember what it was for. Can you tell me what was on it and how much I need to pay? A lot of the times when we talk to our customers, they say, well, what we do in that situation is we make a call back to the office, have them, well, I'm getting some feedback. Somebody may have to mute. They call back to the office, email back to the office, and ask someone that has access to Cinch or has access to Agris to look that information up and get back with them. With Insight, since it is a web-based program and a mobile app, doesn't require them to have access to Agris. They can still drill into specific invoices, specific contracts, look at their receivable balances, things of that nature. So all of the data that's being pulled in by that web service from the ERP into Insight, you can drill down into the transactional level. And again, that kind of goes back to being able to being able to get the right information to the right people at the right time. I keep saying that, but that's really the overarching message of this entire half hour that we're going to spend together. It also allows your customers the information that they need so that they can make decisions while they're interacting with your company, with a representative from your company. I think a lot of these benefits we've covered kind of at a high level, but I did want to specifically call out, some of the benefits that we see and some of the benefits that we've heard from companies that use a CRM system like Insight. They gain efficiency in communication, right? Both internal and external. A lot of the points that we've talked about here today fall under that umbrella. It's also a centralized platform. So if you have multiple people interacting with the same account, they can see those touches that have been made by the other representatives from your company. And again, that goes back to that relationship building with your customer. If you have a grain originator that just spent 2 hours with Colorado corn, you probably don't want the agronomy person calling them right after that asking for another 2 hours of their time. Maybe give them a small break. So just those small things that help out with that interaction with your customer are things that can be realized with a CRM system. Visual representation of data and the ability to share and distribute data, both internal and external, right? Those dashboards just make it easier for a user of the system to be able to manipulate the information and get it to a point where it's understandable to the farmer. Improve productivity and mobilize the workforce are kind of one and the same a little bit. Mobilizing the workforce just goes back to the point that I made that this system does not require you to have access to your ERP. So especially if you're on the road or away from the office, as long as you have your cell phone in your hand, a tablet, in your bag, and internet access or data access, you can get information and get into insights. We're almost done here, and I thought I would share something a little bit more personal, and kind of end on an overarching note. Really, there's not a lot we won't do for our customers when it comes down to it. One of the reasons why I like working in ag is because the people that are in ag are down to earth, they're honest, and they truly want to continue to strive for the best for their company, their family, and their community. We had for those of you that know me, I have a farm, and we had a group that came to do some pumpkin picking. And I thought it would be a really great, fun idea to carve out a pumpkin and put it on my head. So again, not a lot that we won't do, for our customers. If hopefully that kind of came across the right way. If you have any questions or want to talk in more detail about how Insight may be able to benefit you or your organization, feel free to reach out to your account manager, either Nikki, myself, Jake, Chrissy, or Mike. Their information is here on the screen. And if you don't know who your account manager is, just reach out to one of us and we'll point you in the right direction. I always do like to make notes, just quick, this is off topic of this specific presentation, but always remember that the Agris customer documentation and Cinch customer documentation is the best way to get to things like user guides and FAQs on your main ERP systems. So if you just Google that phrase there, you'll be able to get to that website, no login required. Before we sign off, Nikki, are there any other questions that have come in?
Yes, you may have touched on this earlier, but a question has come in and it says it looks like all team members will be able to see other team members' interactions and entries with the customer, correct?
That is correct. Yes. So when you're on an account in Insight looking at the activities, you'll be able to see the internal user who logged that activity last, and it is a cumulative view. So if you have multiple people touching on that account, you will be able to see the activities logged from everyone.
And the next question is Insight an app or is it just a website?
Both. I may not have been super clear there, right there at the end when I was talking about having access on your phone or a tablet. So if you're accessing Insight, you can get to it through a web browser like a Google Chrome or Firefox or Edge, whatever platform you use. You can also download the app from Google Play or the Apple App Store if you have a tablet or a smartphone that's compatible with apps.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Jake. We'll give it another minute or so for Q&A if we have any additional questions coming in before we wrap up today's presentation.
Perfect. Yep. If you guys have any other questions, we'll stick around here. But again, thank you guys for your time. We really appreciate it. We've talked a lot about customers and maintaining that relationship. I think I speak from all of us here at Greenstone. We appreciate you. And if there's anything that we can help with, feel free to reach out to us. Any other questions there, Nikki, that have come through?
No other questions at this time.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We'll probably hang out here for another 30 seconds or so if anybody is typing up a question right now. But for everybody else, if you no longer have any questions, we appreciate you attending and have a great day.